Now it's perfect.
Now it's perfect?
Yes, now it's perfect. We can start.
Okay. So wait, now I have to go back to my screen correctly. It's not changing. Oh. It's not changing the slides now. I'm sorry. I will open it again. One second. You see it now? Hello?
Very well.
Okay, thanks. Because now I as well can change the slides. So Georgie, thanks for the kind introduction, and I'm very happy to present this at SPAWAM. I have a very nice recordings of being a student at the TESIC in Madrid during my education. And today I want to present, as Jordi already said, the possibilities for live cell confocal screening you have with Nikon. So the product portfolio from Nikon has a long tradition for live cell screening system and live cell imaging in general. But today I don't want to talk about the screening boxes. I want to talk about a very open solution, which is based on our inverted microscope, the TI2. And it's, of course, very closely connected to our software solution and the perfect focus system. So with this, we feel we give you really on hand everything you need to have a working live cell long-term experiment. And if we are saying long-term, we don't mean 8 or 12 hours. We really mean that you can image over weeks. So one groundbreaking development in the sector of live cell imaging was actually the establishment of pluripotent cell SEMs by Yamanaka-san, who you see here on the left-hand side. He won the Nobel Prize for this in 2012 for physiology or medicine. And this process is really very intense. So these transformation and the maturation takes months, and you have to select them manually, and it's very prone to the person who does it. So with this development, we developed as well a set of imaging devices which actually standardize this and can do this automatically. So this was a very great breakthrough, of course, and but this is as well a very specialized section. So with all this knowledge we gained there, we wanted actually to bring this to different fields and to bridge ideas and approaches and to make this technology available to a wider audience. To widen this, we first went very, very far. So this is a former customer of mine in Germany. And here you see the microscope and you see a lot of different devices which are handling all kinds of things. So this is a model from another customer, and you see here there's always some automated high-speed microscopy, but there's a lot of other devices like liquid handling and really robotics like you would see, for example, in car manufacturing. So if you already think a microscope is expensive, you better don't ask for the price of this. And again, we felt that we gained a lot of experience, which actually can help as well other users and more academic research as well. And you see here, this automated high-speed microscope is very likely or can very often be a TI2. And you will see throughout the talk, you will discover that the TI2 has very nice features in itself, which you can just use as the microscope, but it's really good to give you the opportunity to do screening and as well now to do live cell screening. So here on the right-hand side, you see actually the solution we are now offering. I hope you actually see the laser pointer. So it's a compact solution. It has everything inbuilt what you need. It fits 20 plates in 2 hotels of this kind, which you are then filled in here. So we felt this is really a scale and a design which can fit more than just very specialized approaches and which can be like really from help to a wide community. This is the open system without the incubator, just for display. So to perform these acquisitions of multiple cells over time, Do you see the next slide? Yeah. It's very important that your system is stable. It's more important than for other systems, as you can imagine. So the CO2, the humidity, and the temperature have to be controlled very, very tightly. And this we have taken care of good for this instrument. Any onset of stress, you maybe not see directly with your cells, but this will negatively influence your experiment. So we made sure that mechanical handling and the temperature is so gentle that your cells really stay nicely over weeks. This you can see here in from a prototype. I use this because it's open, it's not yet there in microscope, but you see every plate has its own apartment. So the gripper can check for every barcode and every plate is fully controlled. And you as well see already here a little bit that the handling is more gentle than for other boxes. Like this, we can provide that over really thousands of transfers, the cells stay happy and they're always brought back to the same position. This video always makes me very dizzy. I think it reaches 2,000 transfers. Maybe I can go to the end. Yeah, 2,000 transfers roughly. I made the videos of the cell. This is more what you used to. So this is a 42-hour time lapse. Every 15 minutes, this plate was taken and brought back, and you see the cells are very happy. So I think this is something we can give in your hands that you can really perform optimal experiments. Now I want to guide you a little bit through the hardware and why we think the decision we made to take the TI2 for the system was the right decision and gives you high flexibility. The TI2 was introduced as the first system with a field of view of 25 millimeters, and it still is the only system on the market with a field of view of 25 millimeters. And you maybe think, okay, 7 millimeters more, but it's actually, it makes a lot of difference. So you see here on the left-hand side that actually now with one shot, we can cover the lot of wells which are standardized used in screening. And so you don't need to do any scanning or any stitching of your well. You can very quickly do a pre-scan of your slide, of your well plate, and actually detect which wells are from interest of you. So you can reduce your junk data tremendously. I will illustrate this using a slide scan from a section, which of course will not happen with the well plates, but just to show you what happens with the 18 millimeter field of view, which is the standard, and our 25 millimeter field of view. And so you see here, just by capturing the images, we're twice as fast. So the embryo on the left side is already covered when the one on the right side is only halfway through. Imagine you have 20 well plates, 384 wells, the time increase you can have. So this is already one really large benefit, but it's as well nice if you just have a larger model organism. Maybe you're not interested in cell culture, but you're interested in a whole organism or organoids, spheroids, all these kind of things. So this is a 10x image of a zebrafish, and this is not taken here with a higher magnification. This is just the crop out from this region here. So you can get more of your specimen, or you can get more information in one image as you prefer. And this makes actually your data sets as well more robust. So you see here, maybe please first have a look on the right-hand side, where you can see the 25 millimeter field of view in black and the 18 millimeter field of view in this light gray, that when you, for example, acquire 30 images, the cell count you have for the 18 millimeter field of view is roughly half of what you have for the 25 millimeter field of view. So if you draw any kind of conclusion from this, we only on the left-hand side here took average intensity. You might have a structure of interest, of course. You have to notice that here the error bar is really, really much smaller than on the right-hand side. So the main thing is that you really have more reliability statistical data in the same time or faster. one traditional bottleneck. So you say, okay, this is very nice, but of course, if you have human-free interchange of the plates, there's nobody who focuses your plate. So another traditional bottleneck in screening was that by taking the next plate, it took very, very long until you found your focus again automatically. And this is taken care of by the PFS, which I mentioned before. So you can see here, this is as well an open prototype where we put it the plate, it takes the plate, and now you will see on here that the PFS is switched on automatically. So here this lighted up, and then it selects the focal plane very, very quickly on one position, and then you can scan the entire plate without an additional autofocus. So the PFS will keep your plate in the focus. And this as well over the exchange, so then the plate is taken back and over all the weeks you're imaging. Of course, as we said, you can now as well have a look at whole organs. We have still an autofocus possibility if it's needed. And this is really fast. I play it again. In 49 steps, you can acquire in 3 seconds, and then you can decide for the plane you want to image. So as a fallback, of course, if you want to do a Z-stack, or if you have to, for some reason, find an autofocus, you can use this very fast method. This as well depends a little bit, of course, on the camera you're using. We are suggesting, of course, 25mm field of view cameras because they nicely match our microscope, but you could have a reason for any other camera you can think of. There are 3 possibilities. Main entry point for the screening is the left side port here. But on the intermediate tube, we have another possibility for a camera, which, for example, as well enables you to focus on the back focal plane and to make this visible. And there's a small kind of fallback on the right-hand side if you need access to a simple color camera, because sometimes you have histological samples for scanning. There would as well be a place for this. So 3 possibilities. As I said, main entry point, the right side here, because we can not only give you the full flexibility on the camera side, you as well could exchange this camera for one of our confocal solutions. And now everything I said for the TI2 with the 25mm field of view will as well come true and hold true for the confocal scan head. So you can stick a spinning disk unit if you want, with all the advantages you can have for a spinning disk, but actually way nicer, maybe even now, you can have a confocal scan head with 25mm field of view, which enables you in 1K by 1K to have 15 frames per second in 4 colors. And again, here it doesn't look so impressive, I always find. So these 18mm field of view here on the right-hand side, the 25 don't even look so much larger, but think again of the improvement you have in the statistics. And I think this in the middle, I mean, I think it's just a really, really, really good image of a zebrafish larvae, and you can do even for this automated scanning, and you know how much effort people put in screening of these zebrafishes, and this can now be all automized. So the flexibility we give you on the detector side, we as well give you on the side of the light sources. So as well there, we don't want to limit you. There's lots of new fluorophores coming up. There's lots of new light sources. You can have 6 or 7 LEDs available. Here you see just only one example. You can exchange excitation filters, dichroic mirrors, emission filters. New LED light sources have very nice near-infrared capabilities for really gentle imaging. So we really want that the system is as well able to grow with you, so that maybe if in 5 years or 3 years you have a new fluorophore or a new target structure, that you can adapt to it. Yeah, so these shows you the flexibility, and I want to go one step back, which like most people take for granted. It's the optics. And this is of course not only true for the LIPSI, but for all Nikon instruments. We have outstanding optics. We're the only microscope manufacturer who produces their own glass. I like this image here on the left-hand side, which says, I don't know if you can read it, optical glass melting experiment on the right corner. So we actually invest passion basically in finding nice and good properties of glass, which often leads, or which as well can lead to a silicon-fused glass ingot, which you see here, which of course is then for wafer industry, not anymore for microscopy, but we profit a lot from this knowledge. And I just want to make 2 examples. So very often ELVD, so extra long working distance objectives are used for screening, and people don't care much. It's kind of a standard because you can go to thick well plates and everything. But and the image quality is not bad, but you can highly improve. And often people then make a pre-scan and then they would change to get the 0.7 NA with the 60x on a later time point. But these 3 objectives, which are mentioned here, they can be easily removed or replaced by 1 long working distance objective of 20x with an NA of 1.7. So you get the NA of the 60x, you have a sufficient working distance to see your plate, and you collect with lower magnification. So again, you can collect more cells and you get very bright and very good images even for thick samples. And we took it even a bit further. The second objective I want to draw your attention to is that, of course, we want you to do live cell long-term experiments. So it's nice if you don't have to compromise on your refractive index. So if you want to keep your cells in the perfect environment, they're of course in buffer, then it's nice that you can have a water immersion objective, which then even gives you an NA of 0.95. There is a little device next to the nose piece, so you're not sacrificing an objective. So you can still have 6 objectives in the objective revolver, which is mechanically refilling the water. So you don't have to worry at all. It's automated. It will take care of it. You will not have any evaporation, and you can use just normal water. So with this, you manage the hardware part. I know it's a lot, but of course, there's always everywhere Nikon staff which can assist you and make a good selection for your target application. And I want to go 1 step further to the software. So our software is actually the same software over the very small microscopes up to the super resolution microscope. So the interface is very identical. But I want to first emphasize a few new things which we feel are very important generally, and but which as well give a nice benefit for high content screening. And then there's a dedicated modules for high content screening, which empower you to use the microscope at its best and don't worry too much about the hardware. So 1 very important feature is the denoising capabilities we have. They are especially, of course, for the confocal scanner, so that you can really, with very little laser power and very low exposure, have a gentle imaging over a long time. Because imagine you're now not only taking images for 8 hours, but maybe for a week. So it's really a very different time scale. And we took this a little bit further for all applications, not only the confocal, that you can run longer experiments with the artificial intelligence aided. And 1 very important module here is Enhance AI. I explain this a little bit more in detail. So with an image like this, which is only taken at 5 milliseconds exposure, you could record a lot of image, but your signal to noise ratio will not allow you very good segmentation or counting. You might miss features in the noise. So it would be nice maybe to take this kind of images in this quality, but they have 1 second exposure time. So if I would ask you to expose your image, your sample for 1 second, you would probably say you are not willing to do this. So it would be nice to somehow retrieve this image quality. You see here the spectrum again, with the lower exposure time or the lower laser power, whatever it be. And this is possible with Enhance AI, so you can convert the 5 milliseconds into the image of the 1 second. Here they are side by side. So you see they're not identical, but you see from the line profile that you can do everything you need to really get your information you want. A little bit the same, along the same line is Convert AI. We see a lot of groups which use an H2BM cherry, so some tag protein from the nucleus, just for obtaining the cell number, or like really trivial, let's say, information which is not actually super crucial for their biology. And with the Convert AI, you can track, for example, the nucleus from a face image. So you can focus on your structure of interest by recycling the marker you would use for the nuclear staining for another fluorophore, for another protein, or you could just not take it all the fluorescent image and just take your face image and still be able to nicely track these cells or to count them, stuff like this. And then, of course, if you are just imaging in bright field, this is like the less toxic at all, of course. And last, just to note, just to mention it, so tomorrow there will be a dedicated talk on the artificial intelligence. There is as well a complete segment AI module where you can have human bias-free segmentation and perform very gentle imaging if you need to go that far. And with these things on hand, we think it's really very easy to perform intelligent microscopy. And in the next slides, I want to guide you a little bit through what we mean if we speak of intelligent microscopy. So as I explained, with a minimum number of frames, you can actually now cover your well plate or whatever you have. And then it would be nice if the software actually selects your region of interest and can perform a decision or continue the imaging the way you want to. And there are some examples for this. So the detection of rare events, where you actually scan, and here we were looking for cell division, and this was very rare in some of the phenotypes there. So the microscope was basically scan, and then at the end only take the images where we could detect some cell division. And you could think of that even he doesn't not just take a binary decision, yes or no, take the image, yes or no. But it could as well be that you then want to stay actually on this field of view and take a small, fast time lapse to see the complete division or something like this. So this is then kind of a decision-based image taking. And as well, a nice example is Z stacking. So normally, especially if things are growing, people tend at the beginning of the experiment to set very, very large Z stacks. And then sometimes they don't even can manage to meet the Nyquist criteria. But you can actually, over time, just always set a boundary box around your sample and then make the exact set that you need. And if you say you're actually not so much interested in the images at all, which I think would be very sad, then you can have, of course, as well a direct classification. For example, with organoids, you're maybe just interested in the wells where you have a medium-sized organoids, and then you could directly see the number and which wells they are, and you would not even need to look at the images. So yeah, if you're interested in the medium size, good luck, you have a lot. If you're interested in the large size, not. And of course, the criteria for small, medium, and large size you can set by yourself. Some people think this can sound very complicated, and this is why we have a software interface which provides an easy-to-use option of this. So once this is set up, the user actually is guided through the protocol. Of course, you have to set up your protocol once, but then you can have checkboxes, like maybe sometimes you want a Z-stack, sometimes not. Normally, the focusing method, as I explained before, is always the perfect focus system. But as I explained, in case you don't need in focus or something like this, you can have other options. And for intelligent microscopy, of course, you can include the analysis, which I will go into in the next slides. And then the user is taken through this protocol and can only start the experiment when he's gone through all the tabs. So normally you would define a capture definition, because maybe sometimes you have only one stain and sometimes two stains. You would define your well plate from a database, which type you have. You would select the wells which you want to use. You can label them if some of them are track breeded, others are not, some belong to a different experiment. You would generate your points. You see here this was done with the 40x water immersion objective. You can always create new points to really not expose one point set twice. And then you really make sure that your data has no bias at all. And you can set the parameters for the PFS, which are normally stable, and you don't have to redo them every time. And if you click the Z-stack in the first step, you will be asked to define your Z-stack. And if you have an analysis, I made this in a separate slide, you can have a number of pre-performed analysis, very common cell confluency, just to see when the cells are actually, when the well is fully covered, but as well wound healing, where of course the readout of this area suddenly is a complete different measure, which actually says you something about how fast your wound is healing. Live, dead, cell count, very basic tasks. But if this is not enough, we have the opportunity that you create your own analysis without the need for programming skills. So it's drag and drop. You of course have to need to know a little bit what you want to analyze, but you can directly as well see it on your image. And then you can have an analysis pipeline, which is then as well fixed. So every person who will execute it will execute the exact same analysis and will get the exact same readout. So with this on hand, I think we made it really easy to create intelligent microscopy, or some people call it feedback microscopy. There are several names now for this. During like all this course, we actually found out that the live cell experiments are sometimes not so frequently scheduled. And this is why we have a little device which actually reduces the downtime of your microscope and lets you plan and schedule your experiments together with your colleagues. So it looks like this. It's like a calendar, right? So on the right-hand side, you see the 2 hotels and the cassettes. And on the left-hand side, you have kind of a calendar in a function. So you can plan reoccurring experiments, you can parallelize experiments, standardize them, and you don't have to worry because in these hotels, they're always kept in the perfect environment. And we will have a little look inside the box. You will as well see that on the microscope, they're as well kept in their perfect environment. So in this example, we had 4 experiments because often we found that people are just coming with 2 to 4 well plates. So not so many people already have 20 live cell imaging plates. So one experiment was with the time resolution of 1 hour per plate and was scheduled for every 24 hours. The second experiment, this reddish one, had a time resolution of 20 minutes and was imaged every 8 hours. The green one, this very bulky one, actually had a time resolution of 1.5 hours and was scheduled every 16 hours, so it's well a bit unusual. And the fourth experiment, this was 10 minutes and wants to image every 24 hours. And now we see here, if you are the last person to come with your experiment, experiment number 4, you could schedule this at 4 in the morning or at 8 at night. You don't have to be there. You put your plates and that's it. And you don't have to worry. So we think this is really nice and really can have a nice organization of everybody using the microscope. When you go into more detail, by hovering over one of these bars, you always see who did the job, the name of the plate, if it had a barcode, when it's scheduled, the repetition interval, and how many repetitions. And now we dive into the box, and I will show you how then this works. So on the left-hand side, this is a webcam. So I'm apologize a little bit about the lower quality, let's say, but it's very nice these days because we can look at this remotely. This is actually last week. So this was started at the 18th of November and went until Saturday 21st. 144 repetitions, as you saw, and here there's really no time to schedule another experiment. In between, you see the grappa arm, which you saw in the first movie, now here in the back, which takes the plate, and you already saw that the lid opened automatically. It will put the plate now, and the lid will close. And like this, we ensure as well complete CO2 control on the microscope. So you see here the cabling from the CO2, and of course it's humidified and it's controlled. So you, as well, if you have a plate which is longer on the microscope, which we very often think can happen in a live cell experiment, you don't have to worry about the quality of your cells. Then nice elements will open, and you will see actually your cells all the time. Again, here a little bit, I just filmed this remotely, but you will see later that the cells were in really nice shape. And once the experiment is performed, it will bring back the plate, and you will again see that the lid is opened automatically and closed again. So if there is no plate on the microscope as well, you don't have to worry that it's kind of leaking CO2 or something like this. Now it opens again, and the plate is taken out. This is shown in the real time. So you see the gentle handling, but you as well see that it's only very few time where the plate is only temperature controlled. And then back in the hotel or on the stage, it's temperature and CO2 controlled. So now it's back. And now you see here how the cells performed, and they were actually growing even longer. Okay. With this, often people are already very happy that they conducted their experiment, but we don't even leave you alone with the data mining process. So we know that you can record lots of images, and that you sometimes can get a little bit drowned in the data. So one tool we give on hand directly when the experiment is finished, you can get a plate view. So you see here A to H and 1 to 12 your plate. And by clicking on each of these boxes, every well, you will see the experiment and the time, the video of these cells and how their fate is. But we as well understand that you don't want to click and see from 20 well plates every video of every well. So you can have a readout, and you can have a heat map from this readout. I unfortunately didn't have the picture, but if you do, for example, drug experiments, and you dilute your drug from A1 to A12 in every row, you often very nicely see like dark red on the first row and column, and like light blue in the 12th column. So you really see the effect of your drug going down or up. So like this, you can have a very fast quality control. And then if you have wells like this, where you think, oh, what happened there? You can look at them directly, and you can have, of course, a positive and a negative control where you know the value exactly, and you see directly if they're fulfilled, yes or no. But we as well can make graphs with features against each others. And I will show this a little bit bigger, because here you as well know from every point from which image it's coming and from which well they're coming. But you plotted two different features against each other, or you can plot one feature from all the wells. So I think this gives you already a very good overview of statistical relevant data you're interested in. But of course, we give you the software to like steer the microscope and to take the images. So we as well know that we're like not Excel or something like this. So we as well let you export the data very easily, and then you can visualize them in your favorite program, and of course do much more than we are capable in Nice Elements. And with this, I want to end. I hope I could convince you that we're really providing a very flexible solution for live cell imaging, which can actually take your experiments from only binary as no experiment to decision-taking experiment to whole organism or organoid screening, and that you can really monitor multiplex parameter. And the nicest thing, you don't have to worry about the quality of your sample, because we have taken care of this, and the quality of the images, of course. With this, I want to thank you. I hope everyone is still there. I close this.
Thanks.
To get back to
Thanks,
see you.
Simone. Can you hear me, Simone?
Yes, I can hear you, Jordi.
Simone, I've been looking at the chat. As you know, I've just prepared 4 questions just to emphasize some things. I haven't seen any question in this chat. So if you like, I can ask you the 4 questions, because I think we should emphasize some specs. For example, we face a lot of time here in Spain that customers are asking us if they have any attachments that they already have, illuminators, cameras, something like this, if they can add it in a ellipsis system.
Yes. So as I said, you're very free on both sides for coupling in light sources and for attaching detectors. I think for a start, of course, it's always good if you can reuse things. On the long run, as I said, the new cameras with the 25 millimeters field of view are, of course, very nice to use. But if for whatever reason of your application or just simply because you already have it, you can attach the things you already have to the microscope. There's no problem.
That's fine.
Did this answer your question?
Sorry?
Did this answer your question?
Yes, it is. It does. It does. It does. Of course. Of course. I've just added my video. Well, the second thing, and I think it is very interesting that everybody knows a little bit the specs of your Nikon water dispenser, because I think this water dispenser allows the Lipsy to do really large lifestyle experiments by using water objectives. Is that right?
Yes. So the water dispenser is actually, I took this image from above because you will not see it actually when you just have a look at the system. It's a little mechanical arm which is attached to a pump which is then outside of the system, but the water is preheated. So you as well don't have to worry about any changes in temperature. And it's refilled automatically. So if you want, you can just leave it like this and it will refill every half an hour. But if you experiment, for example, you are very sure that you don't want to have it interrupted in an hour, we see that you can actually leave it longer without the exchange of water. And then you just schedule as well the exchange of water when you want to do it. But the interval, which is kind of preset, makes sure that there's always water on the objective.
That's good. And finally, if someone here in Spain and Portugal would like to see, is it possible for Nikon to show the system on site?
On site is difficult at the moment, as you know, but we have a shippable system. I think at the moment nobody wants to see people from Amsterdam, so we can as well do it remotely. Which we have very good experience with. My colleague Isabelle Delia, she's a very experienced application specialist. She has a system in France, which is only for demo purposes, and which in principle normally gets shipped around. This is true, but yeah, due to the COVID, we try to do it mostly remote. And we had already people shipping sample to us. This is as well possible, but has to be discussed.
That's fine. That's fine, Simone. The last question. I think you made clear that we can add up to 20 well plates in the system.
Mm-hmm.
So can we make up to 20 simultaneous different experiments for different users with Ellipse simultaneously? I mean, you can forget about them. You could just place the well plates and then forget about it?
Yes, I mean, there's only just one plate on the microscope. Actually, we're thinking of having several microscopes attached to one loader, but at the moment there's one microscope. So you just have to schedule the time the plate is on the microscope, but you could have 20 separate experiments. It didn't happen, I have to say, because normally people are bringing more than one plate, but if you would have 20 separate ones, it would work, yes.
So basically, that's what I had prepared. I don't know if someone else wants to ask something or not.
Yes, Jordi, there is a question on the chat.
I cannot see it. Sorry.
Shall I ask that question?
Yes, please, Sylvia, because I see only a lot of messages that people couldn't hear and see me. So
Okay, Jordi.
Do you mean the one from Pizza Call?
Yes, exactly.
But Pizza Call is writing us, I guess you're using phase DAPI for reducing DAPI radiation in artificial intelligence. You're using phase lens so compromising flows transmission for force. Can you see the question?
Yes, I can see it actually now. Yes, we use a lot of phase imaging. This is true. If you're worried that this gives too much reduction on a very delicate fluorophore you have, there is this possibility that you have an external phase contrast and the phase ring is not within the objective. This is very advanced. We have use cases for this, but normally we say the fluorescence reduction of the face ring is about 6%, and most people can live with this. But you can, instead of face imaging, use DIC or really nothing. So actually, even now with the new artificial intelligence module, if you just have bright field imaging, it maybe even works as well. So this depends largely on your sample. We use a lot of phase contrast images because this is the most used. Yeah. And yeah, DAPI, we try to avoid it all, of course.
You're welcome, Peter. You're welcome. Nice to hear from you. So I don't know if there's something else. If you have any questions, if not, I think we can close the session. Thanks very much, Simone.
You're
I really
welcome.
appreciate your effort. I really appreciate your effort, as you know. And see you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. We'll have an exciting presentation tomorrow with the artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
And I hope that the demonstration goes well. It should work. It should work well.
Just pressure's on you.
Well, just for everybody to know, we already have our stand in the exhibition. So if you want, you can have a look, and that's it. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, Jordi, just in a minute, I would like just to make a reminder of our talk at 4 from Alveol people.
Cool.
Yeah. Sorry, Simone.
It's also a very interesting technology. I think everybody will enjoy it. Thanks.
And yeah, whenever you have more questions, you can always write to us, of course. Jordi will pass them on to us. But at 4, I think it will be a very good talk from Alveol.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for hosting
me. Thank you, Simone. It was very nice.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye. Bye.